Welcome, and thanks for logging on to WYCC.org for In the Loop, the after show. Our guest today, real estate broker Ron Miller, business reporter for WBEZ Susie and founder of Jellyvision Lab and Jackbox Games, Harry Gottlieb. Welcome to everybody.
Thanks.
So the mayor this week decided to torpedo the Midway Airport privatization after one of the two major bidders pulled out. And Harry, do you think there were echoes of the parking meters there in Ron's brain?
Oh my God! Probably before you started the process, there were echoes of that. It's a little. I'm kind of glad that it didn't come through. It's not just the parking meters and for example the Skyway, both places where we got these big pots of money. And
big pots of money which
evaporated,
gone,
right, and are gone. But it's also, if you just look in Illinois, like our pensions, like government's not great at managing big pots of money. Governments are good at like getting money, spending it, getting it, spending it. So if they were to do something where they're like, we can bring in another group to better manage Midway, to increase revenues, so that we've got the benefit of a bigger annual return every year, that would be sort of interesting. But I think the big pots of money, I don't think legislators are great at kind of keeping their hands off of it and managing it for the long term.
So Susie, is privatization dead, do you think, for these big projects here in Chicago, at least for the time being?
For the time being, I think it's dead, but I don't think the door is closed. I think, in Rom's eyes, he wants it to be transparent. He wants there to be an actual bidding process. Whether the last company standing had a good proposal, that could have been good or bad, but he's not gonna get tied up like the previous mayor and have his hands dirty if taxpayers don't like it. So for now it's closed, but I would say in the future, who knows later on, if the FAA approves it again, I wouldn't be surprised if he tries it to go after those companies again.
Ron, what do you think about privatizing or selling off or even leasing Chicago's most prized assets, like Midway?
Well, I'm not a fan of privatization, especially with our track record in Chicago. I think that if, in fact, there is any more talk of privatization, we should be represented as the taxpayers by our own counsel and auditor and accountants, because it appears, and I agree, that we're not good at managing large pots of money. The city seems to try to raid large pots of money. And the track record that we've had, we've leased these properties, these assets off for long periods of time, and the return is not great at all.
Yeah, after what we've seen with the Skyway and after what we've seen with that meter deal,
right,
do you think any mayor or government official thinking about this would worry about what their legacy would be if they go through with it, Susie?
Definitely. I mean, luckily, Mayor Daley decided to retire after all of that. So we can't say whether he would have survived the next election, but I think any mayor, including Rahm Emanuel, knows that I have to watch my step if I'm thinking of privatization.
Especially if he's running for re-election.
Exactly.
He was trying to get a good deal, and I think that's why it didn't work. Like, he was trying to, even though I don't think he should.
Well, yeah, in fact, one of the bidders dropped out because the deal wasn't good enough for them.
Right. So he was actually trying to make a fair deal. But I think these companies are used to getting totally unfair deals, deals that are bonanzas for them. And I think that that's part of the reason why it fell apart.
We heard earlier in the program about these fines for riding bicycles in Chicago. The City Council this week has also approved some very big fines for littering from one's car, up to $1,500, and your car impounded if you throw a bubblegum wrapper or a cigarette butt out your window. Is that too punitive? What do you think?
Absolutely. I think that, again, there are laws on the books already that aren't being enforced. I think, again, it's this massive fine that I think they're eyeing as some additional revenue. But there are laws on the books. They already have laws about cell phones, and nobody's enforcing them. Right? They're just laws after laws and fines after fines. And I'd like to see that same energy and aggressiveness on some of the bigger issues that we're facing, as opposed to littering.
Right. I think Ron is exactly right. I mean, if we have these laws on the books already, Sure, it sounds scary to up the ante, to have these huge fines, to threaten impounding your car. But if police weren't out there enforcing it already, people are just going to keep littering. And then who knows, maybe the next time around they're going to up the ante even more, but no one's going to listen.
Did you even know that there was an existing law for littering? Like, did you know that there was a penalty before you read this article? Did anybody know that there was already a penalty?
I knew that there was a penalty. I don't believe it's ever been enforced. The law has ever been enforced.
I guess my point is, I didn't. I mean, it makes sense that there's a penalty, but I wouldn't have thought, oh, if I like drop something out of my window, somebody's going to pull up and give me a $200 ticket. So if you're going to do something like this, you got to at least let people know that it's a law. And so that they've got a chance of actually, I mean, like, so you're somebody who's like not particularly well off, you throw something out your window, $1,500?
And your
Or
car.
your car.
And your car, I mean, it's like, you know, it's a little bit much, especially if you don't even know about it.
Well, there you go. We'll have to leave it there. Ron Miller, Susie Ahn, Harry Gottlieb, thank you. Until next time, goodbye.